Well, hello, my darlings, and welcome back to our channel. I am so glad you are here. Today, we are going to be creating a mirrored geometric chandelier glam lamp. I sure hope you'll stay tuned. For this project, you will need a 2-inch wide acrylic tube. You will need some diamond wrap. You will also need a light bulb, whether it's incandescent or LED, the choice is yours. You will need a lighting cord. Mine is 20 feet long. You might not want to go that long. You will also need the lamp mechanism to attach your lampshade. You will need a few sheets of these mirrored tiles. You will need a lamp finial. You will need a few strands of crystal garlands and 4 glass pendants. You will also need some mosaic mirrored pieces. You will need 4 8x10 picture frames. You will also need a sheet of these plastic mesh. And you will need your lampshade, any color, any size of your choosing. Of course, you will need your handy dandy tools. Let's get crafting. So the first thing we're going to do to get our frames ready, of course, is to remove the little tabs that hold the back in, and then we're going to take out everything that comes with that frame and we're going to set it aside, as we will no longer need them. Once we have done that, we are going to be left with the frame itself, and the first thing that we're going to be doing is outlining the inside of that frame with our mirror tiles. Now, to do this is going to be very easy because those mirror tiles actually come on a self-adhesive backing. So all you see I'm doing here is cutting one layer of that tile off of the others. I'm taking off the adhesive backing, and then I'm going to lay that tile onto the inside ridge of that mirrored frame, making sure to push that first tile all the way into the corner. And as I'm removing the paper from the back of that tile, I am pressing down to ensure that my tile is not only straight but secured as well. Once I have secured my first layer, I'm going to cut another layer to place on the exposed backing. I'm going to measure it to see exactly how many of those mirrored pieces that I'm going to need. And once I have determined how many of those pieces I'm going to need, it is simply going to be a matter of cutting off the excess, removing the backing, and just like I had done just a few seconds ago, placing those mirror tiles onto that ledge. So I'm going to continue this process off camera, going all the way around the inside of this first frame, and then continuing this process with my 3 other frames. So here we have our frame that has been etched around the insides with our mirror tiles, and what we're going to do now is we're going to place some additional mirror tiles on the surface of those frames. Now, to do this, we are going to go in with a combination of our permanent glue on top of a foundation of that hot glue. And to do this, we're simply going to be using pellets to ensure that when we place these mirrored pieces down, none of the glue is going to ooze out. Now, one of the things that we learn about our permanent glue is that it is self-leveling. Our hot glue, however, is not self-leveling. So as you can see here, even though I put down some beads of that permanent glue in advance going up the side of that frame, I am being sure to not place too much hot glue going up the side of that frame, because that hot glue is only self-leveling as much as the glue is hot. And so if you were to continue placing hot glue as well as your permanent glue going up one side, you stand the risk of having that hot glue dry on you and your mirror not sitting flush with the frame. So as you can see, even though my permanent glue has been set down, I'm working in partition with my hot glue, working as fast as I possibly can, and then once I've placed my mirror down, I am applying some pressure to make sure that there is no gaps between that mirror and the picture frame. So I am going to continue this process off camera, and as you can see here, what I'm showing you is that there's a little abutment. What I'm going to use to fill in that empty space is I'm going to continue this process by filling in that empty space with some mirror tiles by simply cutting off what we need, removing the adhesive backing, and placing those mirror tiles in its place to complete that length. So as I was saying, I'm going to continue this process off camera with this frame, with the other 3 frames, and then I'll be back to tell you what's next. So here we have our frames that have been mirrored on the front as well as on the insides. We are now going to take these 4 picture frames and we are going to glue them together. Now I am going to be using a 2-part epoxy for this part, simply because with the permanent glue as well as with the hot glue, you run the risk of not having your sides fit flush together. And the reason for this being that even though your permanent glue may be self-leveling, that hot glue is only self-leveling so long as it remains hot. And of course, if you're looking at what I'm doing now with placing my epoxy, we run the risk of, with the time that is needed to run that glue all the way down the side, the hot glue, that hot glue might get cold in some areas. Using the 2-part epoxy ameliorates this because that epoxy stays wet for a few moments. And so as you can see, I've placed my first panel and I am going to continue this process with my second panel, trying to make sure that the epoxy that I have previously mixed, some of it, if not most of it, is not going to go to waste. So again, taking my epoxy, placing it down the sides of that frame, not worrying too much about spillage because as we know, epoxy dries clear. And once I have placed that epoxy on the side of my frame, I'm going to find my placement, apply some pressure, and then allow this to set for the 10 to 15 minutes that is needed before I attempt, of course, to put on my last frame. So while we're waiting for our frames to dry, what we're going to do now is cover our acrylic tube with diamond wrap. And the reason why we're doing this is because this acrylic tube is going to work as the vehicle through which our wiring is going to be placed. And of course, what we want to do is hide this so that our wiring is not showing. What better way to obscure that wire, of course, than to use our diamond wrap. A additionally, what I'm going to be doing in this segment is using my hot knife to create a place for that wire to sit in so that our acrylic tube will be able to stand straight and tall. But before we get there, as you can see, what I'm doing here is using my hot glue, just a very limited amount of that hot glue to lay my acrylic, not acrylic, my diamond wrap down. Now, of course, if you would like to use a permanent glue or even epoxy for this part, just to make sure that it will dry clear and you won't have any residue of hot glue, by all means, go right ahead. But for my purposes, I am using the hot glue, and I'm only going in with the smallest smidge of a smidge in very strategic places until I get back to the other side. Now, to close this, and the way I measured this diamond wrap was to make sure that I had an overlap of at least one layer. And so what I'm doing here now is I'm placing some hot glue on the last layer that is there and overlapping to make that closure. Now, it is very important that when you are continuing this process with your other diamond wrap ribbons, that your beginning and your end is in the same place to make for a seamless closure going all the way down that acrylic rod. All right. Now that the hot knife has heated up, as you can see, I'm allowing heat and gravity to do the rest, and I'm simply going to etch this out until I get let me see. Oh, I know how to explain this. Remember when we were young, and some of us may be aging ourselves, but we used to watch a cartoon of a certain cat and a certain mouse, and this mouse just had the neatest mouth doors, that rounded figure. So I'm going to continue etching this out until I could get a similar shape into my acrylic tube, and that is going to help to place that wire through so that when we place our tube to stand up, it will not be obstructed in any way. So here we have our tube that we have finished covering in diamond wrap, and what we're going to do now is we're going to place a hole in that plastic mesh that I have already measured and cut out what I've needed for the top of my frames. Now, to do this, I am going to trace my circle using a permanent marker, making sure that that hole is going to be centered to the left, to the right, to the back, and to the front. And once I have made the etching that I need, I am simply going to take my scissors and cut out that hole being the place where our acrylic tube will sit. Now, to do this, I am going to bend my acrylic mat in half to start where I'm going to cut. And once I have placed that first hole, it is simply going to be a matter of going around what I have traced, cutting around that hole, trying as best as possible to cut on the inside of your marking, not necessarily on the outside of it, but on the inside of it, to make sure that when you place your column in there, you would have a nice snug fit. So just finishing up and getting around to the other side. Once we place our acrylic tube in there, this is what it's going to look like. So here we have our mesh that is now ready to receive our diamond wrap. And the reason why, of course, we're going to cover it in diamond wrap on the front and on the back is to obscure that white plastic mesh from being seen on our lamp. Now, to do this is very simple, very easy. We're just going to go in with a foundation of that hot glue. We're going to place our diamond wrap over it, apply some pressure, make sure that our corners are lined up corner to corner. And then once we are satisfied with the placement on that diamond wrap, we're simply going to take our scissors and we are going to cut the diamond wrap out of the way to make sure that that hole that we just created is still accessible. Once we have done that, it is simply a matter of placing glue on the other half of your plastic mesh, applying the other half of your diamond wrap, cutting out the other half of that hole to make sure that it's not obscured by diamond wrap, and then we are going to turn our mesh over on the other side. Now, as you can see here, we can see where the hole is not obscured by that diamond wrap, and like I said earlier, you're just going to cover it, place any additional diamond wrap that you may need, and you are going to cut out the hole to make sure again that it is not obscured. On the back side, however, but before we put that diamond wrap down, I am going to reinforce the back of this with 3 popsicle sticks, one on either side of the hole we just created, and then the third popsicle stick, I am actually going to use a third popsicle stick, cut it in half, and apply it in these areas to make sure that once I place my crystal garlands on this mat, they will be secured and that mat will be able to bear the weight. So here is our plastic mesh that we covered top and bottom with our diamond wrap, as well as our gems that we have placed. Now what we are going to do is create our lamp mechanism. Now the wiring that I'm using, I purchased it in a 20-foot length. Of course, you may not want to have such a lengthy cord. I like to have lengthy cords because I like to move things around and want to be sure that I can place my gadgets and my appliances where I need them to be. And so the choice, my darlings, of course, and everything that you do is completely up to you. But as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm running that cord through my acrylic tubing. In addition to the cord that I'm running through the tubing, I'm also running the bottom end of that lampshade mechanism through the tubing as well. And what is going to happen when we get to the end of the line, the section that holds the light bulb is going to sit smack dab into that silver ring. Now here is the shape, the etching that I told you I carved out to ensure that when we place our acrylic tube on in our lamp, it is going to stand nice and tall. Now to make sure that this does not flap around the way you see it is here in my hand, I am simply going to go in with a small layer of hot glue, just a few pellets going around the edge of that thing, placing my hot glue, setting that mechanism into it and allowing it to set for a few moments. Once I have done that, I'm going to place my wire back through that little mouse hole, and then it is now going to be time, my darlings, to build our lamp up. Now to do this, I'm simply going to take my acrylic tube, set it into my lamp base. I am going to take my plastic mesh, fit it over that mechanism, and then once I have finished that and gotten it into place, it will be time for us to get our lampshade. So here we have our lamp that is almost fit to go, and all we're going to do here to place our plastic mesh on our frame is we're going to apply some hot glue. Apply some pressure. Yep, getting my finger glove because I didn't want to get burnt. Apply some pressure and allow that to set for a few moments. Of course, I'm going to do the same thing going all the way around all four sides of our lamp. And once that hot glue has dried and that plastic mesh has been set into place, it is simply going to be a matter of placing on our lampshade. So here we have our lamp that is almost totally completed. I'm so excited. And now what we're going to do is place our light bulb into our mechanism. We are going to turn it on to see that indeed it does light. And now the last thing that we have to do, of course, is place our lampshade mechanism onto our lamp by squeezing, attaching them on, pushing down. Okay. And then once we have done that, taking our lampshade, I'm so excited, guys, and getting our finial and tightening our lampshade onto our base. I'm so excited. So what I'm going to do, my darlings, is, of course, after I pull and pull for feet and feet of this wire, bad idea, I am going to turn it on so that you can see what it looks like. I am going to clean this up of any glue fronds that there are, straighten up my lampshade, and then of course I will stage this so that you can see what our finished project looks like. Well, here you have it, my darlings, our mirrored geometric chandelier glam lamp. Doesn't she absolutely take your breath away? I mean, think about it. If you were to purchase something like this, first of all, it would be found in a luxurious lighting boutique, the cost of which many of us would not be able to afford. But, my darlings, just with a vision and being able to source some materials, we have created today a piece that would drop the jaws of your guests. I think I would have to say that my favorite part of this project would have to be that crystal finial that just so perfectly tops off our entire look. Tell me, my darlings, what is your favorite part of this project? I would love to hear from you. If you also have found any value in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up as well as leave me a comment in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. To my Danny's darlings, please know that I appreciate all of the love, the questions, the comments, the feedback, and most importantly of all, your encouragement. Please know that none of it is wasted, and I appreciate each and every one of you. To those of you who may not yet be Danny's darlings, kindly consider joining today our ever-growing community of DIYers as we learn from and craft with each other on a weekly basis. We would love to have you. And if you so choose to join our community today, also be sure to click the notification bell so that you will be made aware whenever any of our videos have been published. Well, before I sign off from this video, my darlings, and more appropriately or most appropriately than in times before, I am going to leave you with the motto to our channel, and say it with me if you know it. Why buy when you can DIY? And so, my darlings, my loves, until next time, I say to you, please, please, please take care of yourselves for me. Know that I love you all. Bye now. Thank you to those of you who stayed with us until the end. Today, I would like to honor some of my dynamic darlings who are not only following me on YouTube, but who are also following me on my Instagram, Danny's Darlings pages. And so, without any further ado, I would like to say thanks to T-Baby3, who commented when I posted that I found some Christmas items already being placed in the Dollar Tree. Her comment was eyes wide open waiting. Love your YouTube channel. Thank you so very much, T-Baby. I am so grateful you are here, and please know that you are appreciated. The next person who I would like to honor today also can be found following me on Instagram, and this is Find Your Hues. Thank you so very much for your question, Find Your Hues. She asked that question when I posted a picture of my 3-tiered hors d'oeuvres tray, and her question was, how long have you been developing this style? Love it. So thank you very much for your comment and your encouragement. Find Your Hues. And the last person who I am going to be honoring today is Miss Bridget. She has been with us for quite some time, and I am so very proud of her, because at first, when she first started leaving comments, she used to leave them in her native language of French, and then she would kind of branch out and speak to me in both French and English. And now to see her leaving this comment on Instagram, Danny's Darlings, in complete 100% interest, I am so proud of you, Bridget. And she says, fabulous, very, very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bridget. I appreciate you as much as well. And so, my darlings, let's give these ladies a round of applause, and be sure that you are following, you are keeping up with me. You are on Instagram, you're following me on Facebook, you're following me on Pinterest, and you're also, of course, following and leaving comments on YouTube, because you never know where our next dynamic darling will be coming from.